Once again, a very warm and good morning to all of you. I'm honored to be part of this event to deliver a keynote address on this ORAN event and thank the organizers, the Broadband India Forum and BHARAT exhibitions for organizing a very timely conference. As global networks are gradually heading towards expanding 5G services, Government of India has also announced yesterday the 5G spectrum auctions, and a rollout is expected sometime in August of this year. This promises to be a big step forward in creating a strong foundation for the growth of India's digital economy and Industry 4.0 revolution. With some programs like Startup India and Make in India, spearheaded by the Honorable Prime Minister, we expect big economic gains for 5G in terms of innovation and driving the use of these digital economy tools to grow the various sectors. Incidentally, 5G promises to be the first time where every sector has the opportunity to use it to actually drive new services, new products, new experience for customers and for the industry players as well.
Morning, respected chief guest, friends on dais and all present here. I think it's great to be back on this mix of real virtual. What I want to do over the next 10-12 minutes is just to take you through a couple of concepts, seed couple of thoughts into your head so that we understand where we are going with this huge disruption around this whole Open RAN technology architecture and how this is going to change the way we operate, not only as an operator or as a partner, but the overall industry ecosystem. And what are those 2, 3, 4 fundamental driving forces which are going to change the way this is going to usher in. And finally, the challenges which we need to be aware of, because if you look at the way telecom has exploded, specifically in this country, we started with voice in the first decade of the century, then we started with data in the second decade, 3G and 4G blossomed. We are now one of the biggest data consuming geographies in the world, highest per capita consumption, highest total consumption, barring China, of course, which we believe we'll be able to overtake very soon.
Key benefits for India and deploying Open RAN technology are going to be around flexible solutions. So having the choice of flexibility in ORAN, the ability for the operators to choose different vendors to work with in a multi-vendor environment to enable not only 5G for all of us as consumers, but then also to look at things like private 5G networks to drive new use cases, to enable new revenue streams, and thus drive top line for operators in India.
The wide ecosystem that's going to mushroom upon in ORAN requires to work on an open interface approach, open APIs. However, these APIs and open interfaces need to be consistently developed and provided for to ensure a long-term life cycle. So this requires the entire ecosystem to come together as one and make sure that the experience both for the consumer and the operators are well maintained.
Open RAN basically allow you to disaggregate and open the radio access network. Really what it drives agility, the ability to introduce easily new applications, okay, into the 5G network that the user will be able to use. Okay, application that we don't know yet. Everyone asks, what is the killer app? Okay, it's hard to say what is the killer app. Is it a connected vehicle? Is it an industrial 4.0, augmented reality? But Open RAN basically provide you an open architecture to allow to easily bring those applications. It also provides you the ability to reduce your cost, both your operational cost and capital cost.
So Open RAN is evolving, it's still in a very early POC and trial phases, and especially for India, the challenges is that India is a very cost sensitive market, and already telcos are struggling with the ARPU and the lower profitability, and so total cost of ownership with ORAN seems to be challenging right now. So somehow if we can through an ecosystem, if we can reduce it, that will be really helpful. But the main challenge I see this as the total cost of ownership.
Well, let me first speak from our side. Let's say we are one of the ecosystem players, Red Hat. So we provide the virtualization container technology platform to host these workloads. So we have to continue working, on the extreme automation that is requested to deploy this. India, as was highlighted, it's a much larger scales. We are talking about, much higher number of sites than what currently get deployed.
See, this Open RAN is allowing us a diverse supply chain compared to the traditional RAN, which are vendor locked in and which are limited players. Open RAN is allowing the supplier diversity. It is, allowing a lot of startups to come. If I talk about India, a lot of IPs are being developed in India, and it gets integrated somewhere and comes back as a product to us. So this particular ORAN will allow our startups, our entrepreneurs to come up and contribute to this Open RAN.
So the biggest challenges for Open RAN to succeed in India is about creating maturity in the ecosystem. While we've seen Open RAN being deployed commercially in some of the other more mature markets where we've had very large telecom operators already adopting and deploying this, in India it's still at a very nascent stage. So not only do you need the equipment vendors to start bringing the cost down so that you can actually get the benefit of total cost of ownership actually being lower than the existing system, but you also need the infrastructure providers, the fiber providers and system integrators and other technology players to actually come together and bring the entire ecosystem to a state where the maturity is there to be able to deploy at large scale, and where indeed the total cost of ownership advantages and the benefit of new applications are actually being realized.
Yeah, there are a lot of benefits Open RAN will bring in for 5G, as well as if with the NSA architecture, it will also bring for 4G as well, because it's going to be hardware agnostic and the vendor ecosystem going to improve. And once the vendor ecosystem will improve, of course, the TCO should go down. And with the new services, innovations coming as is the open source technology, a lot of innovation will come. A lot of third-party APIs going to be open up, which will provide new services and new dimension of the consumer services. So there's going to be a lot of benefits coming from the Open RAN in the 5G going forward.
I think in Open RAN, the intelligence or the counters that comes, the messaging that comes from the devices to the network, all of that information is exposed using APIs. So operators will have choice to deploy applications on the RIC intelligent controller for the RAN. They can deploy various applications, they can take advantage of machine learning, artificial intelligence, and use a lot of automation to optimize the network. All cellular networks, be it 4G, 5G, requires optimization of radio network. And that is where open standards that allows them to pick and choose applications coming from multiple vendors or parties or software developers to optimize and thus provide the experience based on the SLAs or the KPIs or the quality of service that they are committing to their users.
Every benefit has some challenge, and the Open RAN also is not untouched with it. So basically, if you are taking one CU from one vendor and DU from another vendor, the role of system integrator comes into picture, because it's a matter of compatibility between the different units, and if each units are not compatible, it's need to be looked from a bigger perspective. So the challenge is that we need to look from a whole ecosystem rather than looking to an individual entity.